And we're live.
Live.
Hello and welcome to some episode 76 of Game Theory Gang. I'm Matty Allen with Brisology, ChrispyMan of HexFire.io, Future Us, and Tobiwan Hexobi. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
How is everybody? Future Us, I'm glad to see you here. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, man, it's good to be here. I feel like shit and I
Yeah.
need cheering up, so, you know.
It's a good
Where
place
else
for
could I possibly go to get the best cheering up ever?
Yeah.
We'll cheer you up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Those green candles cheered me up the last few days.
A couple cheerful things have happened today.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do tell.
So what do you guys think? What's been going on? What should we start with?
I mean, the thing that's top of mind for me is kind of gloom and doom, not chart related, not hex related even, but just a crypto influencer apparently going through some difficult situation. But I figure we'll talk about that later, if at all. Sure. I mean, it's been all over Twitter and YouTube and everywhere else, but don't want to start out on a sad note.
Did you guys hear that the SEC lost its lawsuit against Grayscale?
That's bad news, man. They're going to double down now. They don't like it. Yeah.
It's fine. Let them put the resources
Everybody
into
thinks
that.
it's good news, but it's not. It's like, oh no. Yeah, they're really going to bring out the big guns.
Yeah, I heard someone calling for Gary Gensler to be fired. I'm like, no. Keep him in there. He is incompetent. Do not replace him with someone competent. Keep Gary exactly where he's at. Come on,
devil
guys.
Hinman was okay. The previous chair, Hinman.
Hinman?
Hinman.
I might send in my resume.
There you go.
Maybe.
I would vote for you, although it's an unelected position.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't you dare.
But the thing about the lawsuit was that it was called, I think, capricious or something, which basically means that like you have to rule like cases in like manners. And so they're just saying that, hey, man, you guys are being unfair to these guys because you're not judging them like you judged other stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really good case, for Richard and Hex, is they're going to have to rule it just like other stuff, I think.
I figured they just
it's a good sign. Yeah, it's a good sign that the judicial system is working.
I figured Grayscale just said no to the bribes. Said no, screw you. And so they got rejected. Alleged bribes. I'm alleging it. So I know it's alleged. Yeah. Capricious. I've heard that word. I think I know what it means, but I'm going to ask Google.
I'm a Scorpio myself.
Please do not ask me to define it. I am
basically impulsive or unpredictable.
Oh, I thought you said Capri Sun.
Yeah,
I went to the island of Capri recently.
I had a Capri salad.
Crispy wears Capri pants.
I do. Right up to my shins, man. Those are my Crocs. I'm good.
There you go.
So did Elon get a license to deal crypto on Twitter? Did that happen today?
That's what I heard.
When has Elon ever needed a license to do anything? What?
It's license to chill.
Well, that's the big plan with X, right? It makes you wonder what might happen with that. Which crypto will he choose?
Didn't he do like a Mars coin or something a long time ago? Or maybe he just talked about it.
Doge Elon Mars is not associated with Elon, but it is associated with the longevity movement because Vitalik sent all the coins to one of the foundations that's like the parent foundation of Sens. And so that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it wasn't that one. I thought there was another one that, and there was talk of it being the currency on Mars, like since his whole thing is to populate Mars, right?
So
We'll have to wait and see how that works out.
Right.
I remember somebody mentioning it. I don't think it was him though.
Yeah, it's been a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, hell with it. Might as well throw it out there. Like the BitBoy thing's got me all fucked up. It's like I feel really bad for Ben Armstrong. Like if he's going through that kind of stuff, just him and his family. It's like I've been affected by it with friends and family, people I've lost. So I mean, it's really just messed my head up because it's like love him or hate him, he's a huge influencer in the space and has been for years. Friend of Richard Hart. Has been kind of back and forth with his support or not support of Hex, but it's a shame to see a guy succumb to his.
Well, I'm not going to believe that he has until I hear it from his own mouth. I mean, I've seen some business deals where.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, that'd be
whatever. So I want to give him the
context. To set the context, BitBoy is alleged to have relapsed to hard drugs. And he was fired from his own brand, and so that's what
he posted a drug test just a short while ago that all came back negative.
Oh man!
And it's public knowledge that he had that issue in his earlier life, so it's an easy target if they're trying to screw him over, get everyone to just
such an ugly.
So I'd hate that to be the case. That'd almost be worse, if they're screwing him over with lies. But anyway, whatever, Ben. We care. We don't even know.
Inside their lawsuit, I think they said he lost like a whole bunch of money or something, and so I don't know. I don't even know how true that is, but who knows? Maybe he made a really bad trade, and lost some of their, their treasure chest, and maybe they're pissed off at him.
You should be allowed to do that when you start the damn thing, though, but that's the way the world works.
I ran into Ben Armstrong at the Bitcoin conference in May, and he was heckling Eric Wall, which pro move, right? Like, we all like that because Eric was on stage heckling everybody at the conference and the conference organizers. But see, Ben was he had a giant stack of wizard costumes that he was throwing out to people. And the reason for that was that Eric had asked everybody who was showing up to wear a wizard costume to talk about how Bitcoin ordinals were the future or some weird way he had for communicating the technical aspects of Bitcoin. So I thought it was pretty amusing. I couldn't really tell if he was on drugs or not because, of course, everybody in the entire conference was like, "You're the man. What's up? Let's take a picture together." So, but he was there with his family.
There was one video of BitBoy. I think the last 3 or 4 months. And it actually, to me, I was it really looked like he was coming down off of something. Like he was really fidgety and touching himself and just kind of looking really weird on video. So I'm going to tell you the truth. I wouldn't doubt if it was true, but I'm not going to believe anything until much later.
Whether drugs or not, he's clearly not having a happy time with things at the moment. And, so how it goes out to him, whatever he's going through, I guess.
Let's face it, though, his crew is a little untrustable, because I remember BitBoy said that he sold all his hex at $40,000 that he was given. And he said, I had to help out with my buddy TJ who got hacked. I had to make him whole. And it's I don't know. That didn't really sit well with me. And I know that the TJ guy has always been a huge Richard Hart hater and a hater of Hex. So, I'm just saying some of these guys are unscrupulous. in my
sure.
opinion.
Well, and when you're talking about a business the size of that one and the money that's involved, I mean, you'd think that people would be ethical and, have some scruples, but, it seems like the more money that's involved, the more people kind of bend things to their favor. So, hopefully it's rumors and not true, and that they're using that, which is a shitty thing to do, but that's better than him actually having relapsed and having to go through that with his family and whatever. But we'll see as things play out. But it's like I also noticed, like, the last few times I'd seen him, there were just like little tells that were reminiscent of things I'd seen in friends of mine that had been on substances that had relapsed, and it was just like kind of caught my eye. And then plus it's like I was thinking, it's like, how can someone with an addiction issue be an active trader? Because I mean, that's pushing all the same buttons, right? I mean, that's like definitely the dopamine centers are being activated if you're trading at the level he was trading at. So to
Like
me,
a
it just seems like a
Palinka
slippery
machine.
slope. Yeah, and that could be the slippery slope into it. Like, there's a friend of mine that had an issue with uppers, let's say, and part and parcel of that was casinos. You know what I mean? It's like casinos 24/7. It's like, that's a perfect place for somebody that's super hopped up for 3 days. So, it kind of feeds that same adrenaline rush type of feeling, I'd imagine. I've never gone down that road.
Well,
I mean, I've gambled and I've done drugs, but I've not let it.
There's nothing worse
my
than
life.
feeling like you're not in control of your own psyche and who you are, man. Even if you are high, I can tell you, as a bipolar person, even during manic episodes where the world seems perfect, there's always a sense of, this ain't me. This isn't who I want to be,
Right.
So it's not fun. Even when it looks like you're having the best fun in the world and you feel for all the world, but you just know in the back of your mind something ain't right.
Yep.
And it's tough. So medication helps if it's prescribed.
Yeah, vacation doesn't hurt. I was supposed to be on vacation this week, but I decided to stick around so I could come on with you guys. So that's
nice.
Part of it.
Tell the missus she has to wait.
Yeah, I had last week was a bad one, so it's like I wasn't able to come on, and I missed coming in here and shooting the breeze with you guys about all that's happening. And then I've been charting, but it's like TradingView got funky with the chart that I use, which was predominantly V3, I think. You saw V3, and like for 3 or 4 days, it's like it would print like one little like pixel almost, like not a candle of anything that you could really utilize. And then subsequently, it's like I've been using some other stuff and keeping track of charts. And then like during all that traveling, it's like I missed out. Like 2 of my biggest dip calls I couldn't buy because I was traveling and I didn't have access to my hardware wallets. So now that I've been home for a while and
you should use Time
in,
Pays Me to be able to undo a hack so you can.
Dude, I'm looking into doing that very thing. Actually, I've got some friends of mine that I'm helping set up as new onboards, and that is going to be part of the conversation. So I will be requesting your services soon, Mr. Allen. Yep. I know that that's your thing, and it's like it's obvious that you want to talk about it and promote it because, but it's like from an outside perspective, I think it's fantastic. I mean, I think that it's.
Thank you.
I mean, the fee structure is very, very reasonable because I know that that's immediately what a lot of people jump to, like, oh, are you going to make money off this thing, whatever. Very, very, very reasonable comparative to like what you're getting.
Yeah.
And just as far as like the broader reach that it could have, like beyond our little HEX ecosphere, our little RH ecosphere, and then for that to be able to come back to like, oh, well, who is this guy and who did this and oh, what are they affiliated with? And then it's like, I mean, just for outreach, not only can it help thousands of people, avoid catastrophe, but and also help with mental health things. If you're trying to like beat something or like set a goal for yourself and use that as a reward system or punishment mechanism to kind of facilitate the changes you want to see in your life. It's like I think it's great, man. I'm really proud of you for doing that because I know it's no small feat and no sacrifice.
That's
no
right.
token, like all that, all the good stuff. So I'm stoked
and
to actually have
Future Us
firsthand
is a
experience.
big part of it. Thankfully,
it wasn't even going to be
Bingo.
a fee, but the game theory kind of required something. So, yeah.
and I'm gonna be. I think it's 2 weeks from today or a week from today. I'm gonna be chasing down a bunch of billionaires in California. I'm going to this super exclusive summit put on by the All In podcast. And
Sweet.
Mr. Beast and Brian Armstrong are going to be there, among others.
way.
And so I don't know if I'll get it, who I'll get a chance to talk to, but I'm going to be doing everything I can to put myself in front of those people and try to get them excited about paying your future self.
Cool. Try to put the movie in the ear of Mr. Beast, because maybe he is a documentary guy, and maybe that would make him want to learn more.
Well, I know he's a philanthropist, so I'm going to tell him that he could give away money to people, and then they wouldn't get Sun-Well syndrome if it was dripping to them over time.
Yep. Actually, going back to the addiction thing, there was a friend of mine that I actually helped out, and it was part of his recovery was helping him set up a staking ladder and just having that structure and seeing the yield. And even though the price was going down, he understood it was in HEX terms, and he saw the price. And actually, the price was going up before it went down, so he saw a little bit of both. But the whole time, he saw that those TShares working for him.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, for me, just even if I've like there's a couple of stakes I just sort of FOMO'd into right in the early days with everything I had at the time, and I kind of wish I hadn't made them 15 years, but now I'm like, even if I'm really down about the price and it's never going to go anywhere, I still want to know how it actually turns out in the end, even if it is super crap. There's more to it than just the yield. There's something weird about wanting to finish what was started or wanting to see how it works out, however it works out.
It's
And
your OCD kicking in.
yeah, it could be. Yeah, having a stake, and it comes and goes. Sometimes I don't give a crap, but I'm like, I want to know. I want to know how it works out.
Yeah.
So it's just got that stickiness,
Speculative
future is
stickiness.
And then
Future.
the behavioral aspect is something that we've been testing on private testnet and could be released someday soon. And so that's particularly exciting to me. I think maybe this week on Hex Therapy, I will demonstrate the power of paying yourself to be motivated for some positive behavior change. And, it could be as simple as checking in with yourself or asking for help or exercising or taking your vitamins. All kinds of examples come to mind, but we'll see what I'm going to write onto the blockchain and put real money into.
Sweet. I like it.
Cool.
Like, because this whole idea is like, with HEX, it was the first example of where that I saw where you could use crypto to change your behavior. And the behavior is your savings plan. You can lock yourself into a savings that you can't do through any other mechanism.
Oh man, for me it was about being introduced to the idea of even having savings.
Yes. Which is a behavior change.
Doesn't seem to be the issue for me. It's like, okay, I'm going to try the savings thing, see what happens.
Yeah. And, use it like unlocking the potential of people to use their savings account as a motivator kind of releases a bunch of dormant capital, I think, in the world, and can make the world a better place. So we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Literally investing in yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, Maddie, you might probably, knowing you might have something in the can already, but it's like, have you considered kind of like a tutorial, like a walkthrough with examples of things people could use as goals to use with Time Pays Me?
That's the next step. My approach with everything is to practice what I preach. And so the first step is going to be me putting real money into the behavior change portion. I've already, of course, time locked 50% of my pulse, and for a year, that's dripping back to me over that time, like a weekly paycheck. And then I time locked 1% of my pulse and 1% of my pulse X for 55 years. And it's dripping back to me over that period as a weekly paycheck, if I choose to take it.
Could you, well, no, I guess you're not technically holding the tokens any longer, or are you? I was just considering validators. Like if you're validating, could you lock those, but no, then if it dripped back out, I'd have to withdraw.
So there's like there's something called staked ETH
You don't have to withdraw. Like when the drip thing that Matty talks about, it's purely optional, actually, just to be clear. So like you don't actually have to take the drips. They don't get like forced upon you. And the weekly thing is really that comes about because whenever you initiate a withdrawal, there's always the 7-day time lock thing,
right,
in order to give you So if you lock something for a year, basically what happens is 6 months in, being half of the term, you can then withdraw half of it as a single drip if you want to. You don't have to take the drips, and they don't like just arrive in your account. You have to initiate withdrawal and everything. Yeah. But the fastest you can do that for each individual lock is once every 7 days, because there's always the 7-day stand down in order to enable the undo a hack thing. Now,
just to kind of give myself a little leeway here. It's like I was never going to do this, but it was a thought in my mind when we were just going down so precipitously on Pulse in particular, and seeing that it had broken a significant support level, which I thought would be unlikely to break, which was essentially the highest SAC rate, which I think was like 4043, maybe something like that. Crispy would probably know better. But anyhow, once we broke that, I considered, I'm like, well, does it make sense for me to take my validators offline and sell some Pulse and then buy it back lower? Like my degen brain kind of was screaming in my ear a little. I know, and I'm like, no. I'm like, if anything, it's like if I do something like that, that'll definitely mark the bottom, and then I'll just chase the price back up. So I didn't do anything, but Time Pays Me popped into my crazy manic brain at that moment, and I was like, well, wait a minute, if I locked it away from myself, I couldn't, even if I had a moment of weakness and wanted to do it, I couldn't, because it would be locked away with Time Pays Me. And I meant to ask you about it in private, but I didn't think we could. I don't know, I wasn't sure if it was possible.
I don't know.
So there's something called like staked ETH token, which is you can earn yield from being a validator, but it's probably got to go through some sort of centralized BS if that's the case. Although I'm not sure if there's a way to do it trustlessly, to like issue tokens based on having a share of a validator, but then it's still centralized because somebody's running the validator, right? So I think theoretically that's a limitation.
Yeah, like the Time Pays Me vault would have to own the tokens that started the validator, and it doesn't know how to do that. It can't do that. So so you'd have to do it as a layer 2, like Maddie was alluding to there in shares.
Gotcha.
Yeah, tokenize it.
And then you'd have to like go beat up the person who like was running the validator if they went offline. Like, that would be a risk, right?
Yeah. That's true.
So, but still, I think that the highest APY that you get from something is by holding on to it if it does really well. So just like Toby was saying, that's a perfect example of like you're not really time locking it when you're putting it into a validator, because you can unstake it at any time. So might make sense to put 1% into Time Pays Me and see how it feels.
Well, I know if I had a certain amount of HEX locked up just recently, I wouldn't have lost several 100,000 of it to the market as things stand at the moment. So, that's me not practicing what I preach.
Did the red candle scare you out?
No, I was thinking there'll be more, and then all of a sudden it all went green. Dang,
right. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny? It's like I was talking to a buddy of mine, and granted, it's like there's, people that are not as savvy in crypto. They're not accustomed to the volatility, and and he had a family member that had put in a fair amount of money at 40 cents. And essentially it was all through Staker app. So that's a whole other conversation, and I'm still supposed to have a call with Steph. So I'm trying to encourage him to be more communicative with the community, because I think it's kind of things are not great if Staker app's not being perceived as the tool it once was. But with that being said, his sister had put in a fair amount of money. Obviously we're considerably down from that. She had also sacrificed $1,000 for Pulse. And she was asking him, and he was like, hey, he goes, it could go lower. Who's to say? So she basically dumped out of all her HEX and EHEX, which I guess was rather difficult to do with Staker, and then was not able to figure out how to sell her pulse. So I'm like, well, at least she still got her pulse. I'm like, dude, just tell her to forget about it. Like, she never had it to begin with. And like, maybe that's what saves her whole bag, or her whole, outlay of capital that she put in to begin with. But it's amazing to me how many people, like my whole strategy in trading that I developed over time was never all in, never all out, because it's like, even if you see something that is just, you think it's done, hang on to a little bit of it, because, if it turns around, one of the worst feelings I ever had was dumping all my Litecoin and then watching it go on a epic pump, and that's where I learned that lesson. I'm just like, nope. And then, eventually I got rid of all of it and went all in HEX right before big payday. But prior to that, that was an expensive lesson. I'm talking like high 5 figures that was, potentially that I could have had in less than a day. Just because
opportunity loss is a hard thing, because it's like, if only, but you can never go back in time and do the if only.
No, and that's the thing where it's like you can kind of hedge it a little bit, because if you've given up on something and you think, fuck, I can't handle the pain anymore, like, don't sell all of it. That just seems crazy to me. It's like, if you had something that was $1 and now it's worth 2 cents, it's like, what's the likelihood of that 2 cents?
So time lock it. You can go forward into the future and stop yourself from selling, but you can't go into the past.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. That's like the staking mechanism, and HEX is such a brilliant thing. And then things like Time Pays Me, with a similar ideology. It's like, those are the things that save you from those weak moments. Because of course, when did it happen? Right when we had those when we bottomed, what I think is another bottom from a few days ago.
Hey,
and
this situation,
huge pump.
This situation, Toby, that occurs to me is we need this situation to be like it is, because this is how crypto works and how value gets pumped. But I reflected a few times in the last couple of weeks, man, I should have just swapped everything into HEX and staked it. 100%.
I've had that several times.
Like,
my stakes are doing good,
But but why didn't I? Well, because I was already in HEX. I'm thinking about Pulse. I'm thinking about Pulse X. I want to have exposure to all that, and so I didn't do it. I did some, but I didn't do everything. And anyways, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people thinking the same way. So, but that was my decision, right? So I am, I have exposure that way. But it's funny, everything that comes with Pulse Chain goes against what my beliefs are. Almost everything, because it all ends up being, all the things you guys are saying are things that I feel too. Like, I don't want to lock it up, because what if the price does this? And then I'm looking and I don't know what happened with you, Future Us, but I can tell you what I was thinking about. I'm looking at this price is coming down, and I keep hearing the FUD from people, and I'm trying to stay strong. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I should swap out. And, so, there's like a million different things. And it all comes back to that step-by-step plan that was laid out, video after video by Richard, right? The people who do the best, like Maddie said, are people who hodl, over long periods of time, and they don't trade. And then the only way you can do better than that is to actually stake it and get yield, right?
I trade out of a gambling addiction or bored. I'm not addicted to gambling, I don't think, but then if I was, I'd probably say that. It's a small part.
At any time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Cold turkey,
as far
man,
as
no problem. Just one more trade.
As far as the gambling thing, it's like, as the guys here know, and I'm sure others that are listening and have paid attention to my longer dissertations about like my how I got into crypto and all that. I literally gambled for a living for a while. I played blackjack, I guess technically professionally for about a year. And, but what I learned is after I kind of got away from that, I would go back and I would just play at a lot lower limit just to kind of scratch the itch. And it's like, I didn't get a rush, if you got like $450 like on a hand of blackjack, it's like, that's pretty intense. you know, if you're playing at a $5 table, it's like literally like nothing at that point. And it's like, but still, I was able to like keep my skills sharp and play. The only thing that was frustrating about that was that typically at lower limit tables, you have a lot of really stupid people. And I just thought of a corollary to that today, actually, because what I have done, and it's like I don't talk about it publicly because it's like I'm trying to follow Richard Hart's path of least reckless, so I don't talk about specific tokens that I may dabble in with a small little degen bag, and it's small amounts of money, like a few $100s, whatever. But it's kind of fun to see if I can take $100, turn it into $2, or and if I put $200 in something that goes back to 1, it's like it's not the end of the world for me in the position that I'm in. But the thing is just like with going to those lower limit tables and dealing with the stupidity at the tables, it's the same thing when you're playing with like these meme coins and other stuff. It's like, I mean, the vast majority are pump and dumps. It's like they're so manipulated. It's like
this time is different. This time is different, Toby.
Right.
It's just
and
it's like going fishing to me. I mean, I don't know if any of you are into fishing with it, nylon.
Oh yeah, I love fishing.
Yeah.
The number of times I've spent $100 on bait and come back with one little fish, it's
Speaking about gambling,
you have a healthy mindset about it,
Did you guys hear about that Pepe coin?
Yeah, which one?
Which one? Yeah.
The one that was like really big. It got like shut down and rug pulled, and then like I guess the developers.
Yeah, you're not helping. They all got rug pulled. Which one?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I know the one you're talking about. You're about the actual Pepe.
We know the one.
I think it's the one on Ethereum. I don't think it's the one on Pulse Chain. But the biggest thing was that the developers had actually blacklisted a bunch of like the early wallets that got in early, and so those guys, they couldn't even dump if they wanted to because the developers like basically blacklisted their addresses. So
that's how they got the price to go up.
Wow.
I see.
Probably.
I knew that was manipulated.
Yeah, I might try that. Let's take a note here.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's good to know. Thanks for bringing that to our attention.
That would be a cool hack.
So yeah, guys, even if you gamble on a brand new like meme coin, you're like, oh man, this thing just launched yesterday. Well, things happen. So
I tell you what, man, B Roots, I heard him on with Buck Fiat, and Buck was playing pretty nice with him, but he was kind of giving him the what for in a respectful way. But one of the things I took away from that is how B Roots was saying, like, the average of all these meme coins is 6 days. Like whatever they're going to do it in the first 6 days, and then after that, it's like doom and destruction. And he goes, and he's of the mindset too of like hang on to it. Like if it's dumped and you held it too long, like hang on to at least some of it, because it's like you never know if it's going to get some crazy moon later. And he said he has hundreds of coins like that. To me, that sounds terrible. Like, because that's just too much shit to keep track of. And like, how in the world are you going to know if like some garbage that you dumped most of 2 years ago finally had a weird pump? But it was interesting that guy who is like the king of chasing these pump and dump tokens and making it seem like it's a good way to make money, acknowledge that the majority of them are like 6 days and then gone, and if you look at the charts, it's like, that's how it is, man. Like it'll have 6 days of green candles and then it's like just bleeds.
It's only the first 3 days though, the last 3 days are stalling out and or the exit the injury. So.
We do have we also do have a pretty big story that I wanted to throw out there. The buy and burn on PulseX broke or something. Have you guys been following this?
I heard a little bit about it.
Yeah, I saw where, Dipcatcher had gone into a pretty long dissertation about it. Used that word twice today. And I don't know. It's like I really like Dipcatcher, but sometimes I feel like some of the things that he puts out are like create some fear and uncertainty and doubt in the because he's very mathematical.
The price went up,
right?
though.
It's like I know him personally a little bit. Price went up. I mean, things. Well, I mean, there was other bigger market forces at play.
All right, all hell Bitcoin.
Up, right, exactly. No doubt. But the thing was he had posed the question. I think Jesse also had brought something up about it. And then as soon as I saw it, I'm like, what's going on? And then I saw where Bretep had said something like that he wasn't aware of it. So then that led to more kind of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because it's like, how does, one of the lead devs not know what's going on? So I checked with the admin chat, because it's like that's kind of my little think tank. Like if I have a question about something, because those guys are just on it over on Telegram. So I checked in with them, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And I'm not sure exactly where they got the information, but they said that they were there was something on testnet for V1 that they were trying to fix or improve, along with some other updates, and that essentially that was their take on what was going on. And then shortly after that, I guess Dipcatcher confirmed that there was something on testnet. So obviously behind the scenes, to me anyhow, it seems like they're working on an update of some sort. But people throwing around words like exploit or vulnerability.
See, it's
like,
fun when people lie or like hope for the best and like say, oh, it's just upgrades. Like that's what it has to be, because like we would ghost the truth but like crypto is about transparency. And if Dipcatcher is out there like reading the code and like running test nets of his own and stuff, the most recent thing that he posted was describing his impression that somebody had figured out a way to exploit the buy and burn and had extracted 1 billion pulse tokens, like over 5 days.
What?
And that was because of some mechanism where you could deposit like a fake LP token or something. Brisology, did you read that?
That's basically what I read, was that some contract had fake LP tokens, and I don't know the magic behind it, but I guess they extracted about 1 billion pulse chain coins, which let's face it, I think that's like what, $40,000 or $50,000. So it's really not that big of a deal. But they're fixing it.
Great though.
So,
but confirm that actually happened.
These are the growing pains that we have when we're, growing a brand new chain, and you got to fix the small things that pop up.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dipcatcher, somebody was like saying, well, the one way to view this is a happy little accident bounty program. So I linked the tweet in the chat here, and it I mean, just as Brisology and I described, it was
real quick
in detail.
Regarding this Dipcatcher post, because it even got me at first too when I saw BBC. I was like, what the heck? Is that Hexy bastard?
Oh, no.
But it means buy and burn contract.
Not British Broadcasting
Corporation.
Why did I think it meant something else?
Yeah. Yeah. But I saw some people in the comments, like maybe not really reading through this very well, but they saw BBC and they're like, what the heck?
That led to some Twitter debates for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the good news is everything keeps breaking.
Good catch on his part. I mean, if it's
we're still here.
It's breaking, all right.
It's like your super strong clavicles, right, Maddie?
That's right.
Those are broken, and now they've healed, and the break is probably stronger than the rest of the bones.
That's right.
And we need some stem cells, stat. Come on.
Yes. Some crypto stem cells.
Crypto stem cells.
Any other takes on this?
Man, I know so little.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify, definitely no like disrespect toward Dipcatcher. I think that he's just so technically minded, and most people are of a too long didn't read mindset. So if they skim over his stuff, and you can see in some of the comments even, it's like whether they're trolling or whether they're really fearful after they've read some of what he's posted. That's where I guess people need to do their own research, right? It's like if they read thoroughly what he's saying and take it in context, then I don't ever really see what he's doing as FUD necessarily. I think he's just trying to explain what he's seen. But people will grab onto anything, especially if they're in an emotional state when the pricing is doing what it's doing. So, so it's good that those guys out there and him and Jesse and other people catching these kinds of things. And I would rather it be a billion pulse than 100 billion pulse, right? Or some other more catastrophic thing.
Yes.
I imagine that it will be remedied quickly.
ChrispyMan, what do you think?
Maddie, I don't think I'm qualified to answer a question about it, man. I don't know. I mean, I read the tweets, right? And once I figured out that buy and burn contract was BBC, the rest of it's kind of like I can't verify. I had to reset expectations. But once I figured that out, I mean, like all the rest of it's like, well, okay, I see what they're saying, but it's not enough information for me to figure it out. And I did not go look, and dig into it. So I'm definitely in the camp of wait and see, and
I can tell you exactly what I think happened based on the text that I just read for the first time. I saw the word spoof somewhere, and I saw something about LP liquidity things, and to me, that absolutely has to mean, and I'm jesting here, of course, that somebody, I guess, set up some fake liquidity pool contracts, which, of course, people then deposit liquidity into. But then how did they get fooled into depositing the liquidity into a fake liquidity pool contract that was just going to steal all their money? And that's where the spoof comes in. So apparently there's something to do with the buy and burn contract that somebody figured out how to somehow insert their fake liquidity pool thing, or that. That's what I can take from the text I just read, but of course I have no freaking idea. But that's what it sounds like, and it may even still only be suspected. Maybe they don't know for sure that that's what happened yet.
Yeah,
turning it off seems like a sensible thing to do until they figure it out. And even if it never gets turned on again, it's only the buy and burn. It's not like anyone's ever been excited about that, right?
Right, you're right.
You're not as excited as everybody else is about the buy and burn.
Now we can't confirm it. I guess maybe one of you guys can, but somebody did post that it's up and running again. I don't know if that's even accurate. Maybe it is. Right here in the stream, somebody said that.
Why don't you like the buy and burn, Future S?
I didn't say that. Maddie said that. I just said that no one's ever.
You don't like the coin being more scarce?
It's just a narrative.
I like demand. I don't care how, as long as there's more demand than supply, then I'm happy. I don't care how the supply sorts itself out, as long as there's more demand.
Get them, boys.
Too many good jokes. Too many good jokes.
I mean, if it buys and burns, that's good. Why not just have fewer coins to start with? It's all the same in my book. It's a nice narrative.
Now you think.
I think it might be too deep a rabbit hole to try to go down, but
too deep.
He does have some pretty good suggestions. Well, I mean, if you look at his following tweet, like it was about 4 hours ago, he's talking about a suggestion of how to maybe improve things. So, I mean, if you want to dig into it.
Oh yeah. He Dibcatcher did post about a potential fix he could think of, so that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
Dutch auction.
That's something I like too. Is like, if people are going to complain about something or show something that's amiss, if they actually come with something productive and constructive from it, I much prefer those kinds of things, and that's why I don't look at that as FUD. It's like that's constructive criticism, right? In a nutshell. People that just
for the record, I don't
whatever, not adding value.
I don't see anything Dipcatcher's ever produced as being FUD. Personally, I think it's all very valuable, but I'd certainly take the point that those that don't, maybe can't understand it all. They're quite reasonable. First response would be a bit of fear and a bit of doubt and a bit of uncertainty, because that's exactly what it is, But I'd rather the information come out. And I guess you could make an argument that maybe you shouldn't be quite so public about it, but I mean. At the end of the day, when these things get fixed, by making it public, it shows strength in the community and in the systems that we have as a community to find these things and fix them. And I think having an evidence trail like that is far better than some secret eventually coming out just at the worst possible time. So,
I don't think
absolutely. Yeah.
I don't think this is like Dipcatcher's MO. But you just want to be careful not to yell fire in a crowded theater. Even if there is a fire, you kind of want to make sure the information gets to everybody in an orderly fashion.
Financial independence, retire early.
You may not even realize how many people are reading the notes, You're like, what? You guys read that still? Crap, I didn't even know. Yeah. Sudden popularity can get you like that.
But no, I appreciate all of Dip Catcher's stuff. All of his sleuthing around.
I mean, that's hours of work. I mean, like the as deep as he goes on this stuff. I mean, that is no small feat to do that. So I'm really, really happy that he's a big part of our community.
Full-time sleuth.
Gold Key on the other hand.
These things could be a little difficult.
I'm gonna have to hug him. Right. I'm gonna have to hug Gold Key an uncomfortably long amount of time when I see him next, because Gold Key blocked me on Twitter. And
I was never any good on Etherscan, and then I hear people complaining about how hard it is to go through the Pulse Scan website. I'm like, I'm not really a high level user on it, and someone was saying like, why the hell is Pulse Scan so hard to use? Like, why is it so crappy, right? And then I had an idea, was that maybe it's like temporarily being held back so that it's harder for the SEC to use. Think about
I don't think I agree with that, but I think that I think it's open source software that somebody has to improve on.
It's also way more complicated too, Crispy, from what I've seen. Like, it seems to be based on the graph, this very decentralized distributed database thing, whereas Etherscan's just one single kind of server with everything on it. And so there's a lot more going on in the background there for real good reasons to keep things really decentralized. So I think that's just a really big challenge. And frankly, I'm genuinely amazed that it's working as well as it currently is, because it certainly wasn't looking good at the beginning. So they must have been doing a lot of work, whoever's developing that code.
Are you saying that Pulse Chain has a different type of way of serving up data than Ethereum does, called the graph?
It seems to be, and I'm not in the development group, so I don't know. But it just seems to me that they're doubling down on using that decentralized database system called the graph.
Yeah, I don't know if
opposed to the likes of Ethereum.
Yeah, I don't know if Pulse Scan is actually powered by that, but we have lots and lots of the graph, subgraphs deployed for contracts within PulseX, etc. So perhaps that's exactly where the data is coming from.
I got the idea because I was looking at some API documentation for making calls to Pulse Scan itself, and it's using the same syntax, the same language as the graph to interact with their API. So I sort of went, and that also, to me, anecdotally, just sort of explains why sometimes the data is up to date and sometimes it's not, because if the data is shared, it's not all going to one central database server that's always up to date or not up to date. It depends which node you grab the data from at the time and all that kind of thing. And that's a massive undertaking to get all that to work, but it's so important. There are so many front ends for contracts that have been developed on the Ethereum network that absolutely require, for example, in Fura, or what's the other one, Alchemy, for their centralized databases to be up and running in order to be able to put data. And if those systems go down, and they're obviously very centralized, I mean, there's like, two of them, maybe three of them in existence in total that it really uses. And if they go down, then your whole DApp goes down. Whereas when you've got this other system that the Pulse Chain devs appear to be using, and I really wish I'd looked into it more and knew more about it, but it seems to me that they're really serious about decentralization in spite of the, order of magnitude more challenge that brings with it. And very bullish for me. I love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I want to spin it that way too.
My issue with it. Well,
yeah, let me just finish real quick. Futura. So here's a great example. On Ethereum chain, you say, hey, I'd like to go get all this information. I want to know every token that's out there that's been transacted today. I want to do some volatility analysis, see what's happening, right? I can get about an inch into that before I've got to pay $200 a month. And if I want all the data, I got to pay $1,000 a month. Or if I really want the data, now I got to run a node. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that even if you ran your own master node, you're still basically down to either writing your own software to index the data differently the way you want, and then waiting for the indexing to happen, or you're down to doing sequential searches. That'll still take days and days and days to find the data that you want.
Yeah.
So that's where it really helps, because it's all indexed, but it's centralized. So the graph does all this indexing, but it's done in some way. I haven't looked into the technique, but I know there's multiple nodes that work together in a decentralized manner to index the data. So
sure.
That's all I know.
So the second part of that I was going to say is that's on Ethereum. On Pulse Chain, within 25 minutes, I can have all the information from all the tokens have been transacted from day one of Pulse Chain, and do the same thing, and nobody's charging me for it. All I have to do is connect to it.
I'm pretty sure what happens is if somebody's created a subgraph or whatever already, and then the network of nodes, however it works, has then done the indexing, then everybody benefits from that data being indexed in that. And by index, it just means like, imagine you had a phone book and it was in random, not in alphabetical order, and you had to find, Brisology's phone number, and you had to start at page 1 and just go through all the pages looking for Brisology. Well, that's what it's like on the Ethereum system when you have a smart contract that has data stored in a certain way, like say stakes for HEX, right? By default, the only way you could find all the stakes that you've had before, if you don't already have a database of them somewhere, is to start at the Ethereum block where HEX was launched, and then look through every single block looking for stakes that have been created from your address. There is, and you could say, oh, well, they could index that. So you could just put in your address and it would instantly just go to your address and bring up all the stakes. Well, yeah, you could, but someone would have to do that for every contract that's been out there in order for this to work, right? Mm-hmm. And that's just not how it works. So Infura has these, some serious infrastructure where they've done a crap load of indexing and made it really quick to look this stuff up. You're not going to get it from the blockchain, like actually out to the nodes and asking whichever node you randomly connect to, give me this stuff, because it doesn't have an index. It would have to do a sequential search. Whereas this graph system seems to work. I really should research these things before I try to speak about them. But it appears to work by having some kind of distributed automatic kind of like, oh, people are interested in this data, the system will now index that data, so that once it's indexed, you can get that data very quick. And that's what Chris was talking about. It seems to really work. It's amazing. I don't know how
Yeah, I kind of look at it as being the data staged, right? So, which is like a fancy term, right? But it's pre-staging the data. And so when I connect up with the graph, I literally can pull down all of the stakes, and which is why we ended up going with a graph to start with, right? I can do that based on the work that they've put in, both within the dev teams for Pulse Chain, and even on the Hedron side, right, with Alex. So there's all these subgraphs out there. You can get tons of data. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's available, So yeah,
and it's fast.
Definitely I could share some of that stuff with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your guys' chief complaints with scan.pulsechain.com?
I don't have any complaints. I'm a low IQ, Neanderthal. I'm just like,
well, I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to do anything as complex as these guys are talking about. I would just prefer like some more simple labeling of things. If you look at certain transactions, it's not readily apparent that it's a swap. The liquidity entries and exits are almost it's very difficult unless I've taken like detailed notes when I've done it, trying to look back and discern exactly what occurred.
Yeah.
So some of that stuff's a little frustrating compared to Etherscan, where it's pretty clear.
And like an Etherscan, there's some human sitting there going, well, it would be cool if people knew like the labels you're talking about. So they sit there and they write the code or whatever to do exactly that one specific thing. But then they only do it for like that particular type of transaction or for that particular popular, smart contract like Uniswap, for example. But some other random smart contract that has some function you can call called something else, like in the case of HEX, it might say start stake, right? Or stake start. If they've indexed that, not indexed, but if they've written code so that it recognizes that particular transaction call and then it can do what you want, give it the human name. So instead of 0x blah 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 blah, it calls it stake start. Then it's done. But someone has to do that, and so in the centralized model, they've either done it or they haven't, and you have to beg them to do it or not do it. Whereas with this graph thing, it seems that anyone can, that knows how, of course, outside of like an Etherscan, it has to be an Etherscan dev inside of Etherscan that does it. With the graph, the way it's designed is that, and it's remarkable. I really do need to learn more about it because it's fascinating. But you start these subgraphs, and then the database system just says, okay, you want to get this data in this format with this humanized thing, and it just does it for you. And it's very, very democratic in that sense, and that anyone can sort of do it. And that's where the real power of it is. And then scan.pulsechain itself, of course, sort of, it's like, it seems to me that the vast majority of the work is in the background, making all this stuff possible in the first place. And then scan.pulsechain is kind of the user interface, and the devs for that are kind of always behind the 8 ball, kind of catching up and trying to figure out how to present all this data. But all the work seems to be going into making it possible in a decentralized manner in the first place. And I just think it's, I know they didn't invent it. I know the graph has been around as a technology for a while, but to be using it and
can we all shit on OtterScan? Can we all collectively shit on OtterScan?
I don't know.
What OtterScan provides?
Don't pick on it. Because somebody had a question in the chat about a stake, and I went to PulseScan and I couldn't find the transaction because for some reason it's not indexed. But I went to OtterScan, and that's where I had to find it. Yeah.
So OtterScan isn't having to deal with these orders of magnitude of extra complexity that I've been trying to allude to. But the trade-off for that is it's more limited in what you can look up on it as well. So it's But the fact that it's decentralized when crypto is severely under attack at the moment, mostly in my view through social engineering and infiltration of groups by bad actors or actors that wish to control, and then taking them over that way, like we've seen with Uniswap. First thing you know, there's some kind of a board of directors or something, and the next thing you know, you've got people that used to work for BlackRock on the board, and then the next thing you know, you're getting unsupported tokens. Well, nobody changed any code to make that happen. Really, to make the decisions, it's just people got in. The system of the people at the social consensus network got infiltrated, and that happened to Bitcoin with Blockstream, and there's a lot of this going on. And so the only answer to that from what crypto is and what it's supposed to do, the only solution that's ever worked, and it's right there in the design, is to decentralize it and democratize it. And so not having to rely on an Infura or an Etherscan database, and having fully this thing.
Well,
however hard it is, and however all this trouble it gives us, and like, it doesn't work. And, well, yeah, but it's better anyway.
I was throwing it back over to Toby. Toby, when you were asking that question about OtterScan lacks the detail that I need. It's less complex, so it pulls up data, but then it lacks the detail because then everything's encoded, and unless I decode it or whatever, I can't see it, right? Because there's no button on the screen. So to answer your question about beating up on it, you can, it's different view.
but I can rely on Autoscan
Right
to
on.
have the latest blocks always there, always indexed. It doesn't seem to ever be a problem. Whereas with scan.pulsegen, it struggles sometimes to keep up for whatever reason. Yeah. So, but
So is there
I
any
think the
truth
reason
to
it's like that is
Etherscan? Is there any truth to Etherscan costing like $1 million a year or something if we wanted to
Yeah.
have that?
Yes.
Got it.
So Coinbase
Let's
with
go
their
bull
new
market.
blockchain, they decided to pay that, I believe, because they have a base scan thing that looks pretty similar. I mean, maybe they did it themselves, but
they
hey,
have
shout
to
out to
dedicate central storage to just that data set. You know, it's not
yeah,
a dynamic system like this graph thing is.
shout out to Coinbase for trying to trick everybody into thinking that the base
Oh,
chain is crypto, because it's
no.
like FTX. You deposit crypto into it, and then you see a number on the screen, and you think to yourself, like, "Wow, I've got some crypto here." And all the meantime, Coinbase only has one validator.
Isn't that the base layer?
No, it's a
So
scam.
I was interested. I got interested in how this base thing worked, and I went and looked at it, and I found out that base is a fork of a thing called optimism, which I vaguely knew about from a long time ago. So I went and looked at their latest stuff, and the bottom line is they have this thing called a sequencer, and so there's really one computer, basically, that all transactions not only go through but get processed by. So it's an Ethereum compatible, like an EVM thing that can run all the contract code. Like if we put Hex on it, it would run the contract code.
You know, Futurist, that sounds
But there's only
very.
one. But hang on. There is only one, and they have on their roadmap to figure out how to decentralize it. But they also have in their technical specifications, this is optimism, reasons why they haven't been able to do that yet. And when you read the reasons, you go, well, then you're never going to be able to do it. It seems to me like it's impossible, sort of some kind of a miracle. So, a change of the laws of physics. So there can only ever be one. And if there's only one node that runs all the code in the contracts, think about what that means. That means they can now censor contracts themselves. They can say, oh, this is the Hex contract. We're not going to run that code. The end. Zero centralization. Screw that, man. That is not crypto.
But if you think about it, Coinbase only having one validator makes a lot of sense, considering how often their website goes down every time there's a price increase.
I think those are two separate issues.
Well, maybe. They're calling it a scaling solution, and it's not even that great of a scaling solution. It only gives you like 60% more throughput or something or other. So, yeah. But the very design of the system is such that, like for example, the like a crucial part of it is the mempool, which is the sort of the queue that of transactions waiting to be pulled in by a miner, a validator to be validated. The mempool's private. No one else can access it. No other. Even if you had another validator, you can't access the mempool. Well, why not? Oh, because it breaks this, that, and the whole way the sequencer works. You can't share the mempool because you can't have two different validators competing for what order the blocks are going to be in, because they have to be sequenced in only one way with no arguments. It can't survive a chain split and all this kind of thing. So I can't see a way it's ever going to be able to have more than one validator. So it's the absolute worst possible thing that you could possibly do to crypto, because the damn thing emulates Ethereum. It's like running your own copy of Ethereum on your own computer with no one else involved, almost.
So is it like 100% confirmed they only have one validator?
They literally only have, it's called the sequencer in optimism, and there is only one, insofar as I can tell. And for God's sake,
I haven't heard that brought up anywhere else. Like, you're the first person.
Yeah, well, I know, right? Look up optimism, and this whole base thing runs on this thing that they call OpStack, and OpStack is from the Optimism project. And you read a little bit about optimism, it won't take you long to learn these same things, that there is only one sequencer, there can only be one sequencer. It's on our roadmap to figure out how to fix that someday. Yeah, well, good luck with that. Yeah, that's what I. Yeah, it's and it's touted as a layer 2 scaling solution. And it is, but it's 100%. It's 100% centralized. Like, I don't like Lightning Network because of the centralization that it encourages, but at least it can be a little bit decentralized. You can have multiple nodes. Not with this optimism thing. It's the worst. And yeah. So the bottom line, though, is that it enables them to censor things because all transactions on base go through this one sequencer. They can sense. They could theoretically. I'm not saying they do, and they don't, as far as I know, but they definitely could very easily censor anything at any level because there is no contention. There are no other validators going to hang on a minute. That's just that.
Yeah.
So
and this is what friend.tech is built on. And so you can see, the psyop occurring where they're trying to convince people that they're using crypto, and they're not. It's not crypto. You put your ETH in, and then you have to beg a middleman maybe someday to validate you.
And it's not an issue with friend.tech. Friend.tech could run on Ethereum. It could run on Pulse Chain. It could run on anything. It's just a smart contract with a user interface. It's not an issue with that. But they're clearly using friend.tech as the big, as the bait to get everybody in and addicted to this new system. We just, it runs my contracts faster and cheaper. Yay! But they don't realize the ramifications of how that's happening. It's going to be screwed.
Pulse Chain's
imagine
better.
building a big community based on something that you launched on base, and then finding out that what I've just said, assuming what I've just said is true, that could be a bit of a bummer. It's like, our entire system's going through one node. No one told us that.
Yeah.
So I have another subject to talk about if we're wrapping up with this one.
Yeah, that was a good one. Thanks.
FUMO.
So I saw a post from Just Ask Jesse about a hack that happened to the DEA. If you want to share my screen, Maddie. So this was the post. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I was personally affected by the same hack. I was hacked.
What?
Now it's not that bad. You don't have to worry about it. This has probably happened to a lot of us Hexicans, but I just kind of wanted to explain what this was kind of about. And
can you make the screen wider? Or hit Control plus.
If you make it, you have to make it narrower in order to make it wider for us. That makes sense.
Or you can do Control plus.
Control plus.
Or
oops, wrong.
It depends what kind of keyboard you're on.
Yeah, it's on a Mac. No.
That better.
Kind of.
But basically, and in fact, I don't even think the DA was hacked. I think someone inside the DEA scammed the DEA. So basically, what had happened in this particular hack, and it happened to me. So, or maybe I should just explain what happened to me, and that will kind of explain what happened. So I was on my computer, and I see my phone, and I got a pop up all of a sudden. It was like, hey, 30 minutes ago, some USDC got transferred out of your wallet.
No.
I was like, excuse me? I haven't transferred any USDC all day. Like, what the heck is going on? And I'm looking at I have a Zerion as a tracker wallet. And so I look at it and it's like, all right, yeah, it says like the USDC is leaving my wallet. So I went to the Pulse scan, and lo and behold, money transferred out of my wallet that is completely secured by a hardware wallet. And I'm like, Exactly. I started freaking out. In fact, I even emailed ChrispyMan because I was kind of freaking out. I mean, it showed it on chain, money leaving my wallet without my permission, and it really freaked me out. But I learned about it, and it's not really anything to worry about, which is why I think the DEA scammed itself. So basically, what I've learned is that people can send you fake coins, right? Oh, mind blown. But if I don't know like how it determines it, but if these coins are of zero value, anybody without needing your seed phrase can transfer coins of value out of your wallet. All right. So it's kind of weird, but yeah.
So there's only one mechanism I know of to make that happen, and it's when you go and interesting. So it's usually when you go and claim the fake coin that's been sent, but you're not saying that you did that. These coins just arrived.
Exactly. I couldn't even figure out like when they even appeared into my wallet. Because I got freaked out. I created a brand new wallet and I transferred coins into a brand new wallet, and then within like 10 minutes those coins also got sent out of that brand new hardware wallet. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And so it's just like it's something to do. It's like they can send coins of zero value out of your wallet. So here's the scam, is that you have USDC in your wallet. They send fake USDC into your wallet. And then say you send out like $500 to another wallet, right? What will happen is the scammers will send that fake zero value USDC to another wallet that looks just like the wallet that you sent to. The first part and the last part are the same, but the middle part is different.
Yeah.
And really, as long as you just don't copy paste the scammers, fake wallet, you really don't have anything to worry about. And that's why I'm like super suspicious about this DEA scam.
I think I get it now.
Yeah.
So they send you a coin that says that it's USDC, for example.
Yep.
It has the same ticker, but it's not actually USDC.
Correct.
And then you go and send what you think is real USDC.
No. You do send real USD somewhere.
And you think you do.
No, you do. Like, that's part of the scam. You send USDC to like another wallet of yours, and then they'll send the fake USDC to a similar wallet.
Yeah.
And
so if you go on Etherscan and copy the latest address that you sent to, which you believe to be yours, then you send to them instead of sending to yourself.
Boom.
Yeah, you recognize the transaction as something you did, and you copy that address. I'll just send it to the same address I sent you last time, and it looks the same on the end and on the beginning, but the middle's different. So right. So they're getting better. So these are people that are running stacks of GPUs to crunch through the numbers to find addresses. They see an address you've used,
and this was on Pulse Chain.
They run the numbers to find one that looks the same. Yeah.
Vanity.
And then you copy paste it.
This is on Pulse. So I wonder if they're doing it on Pulse because the transactions fees are so cheap. If it's
it affects the Ethereum chain as well.
Yeah, because it can deploy it anywhere real quick. So,
but here's the deal. Sorry, go ahead, Maddie.
Oh, and they can also like spoof Etherscan, or at least at one point they could, with like not even having to do it on chain, but to make it show up.
So here's the deal with this DEA scam, was that they sent like $50 as a test transaction, and it went through. And then I guess apparently they went into Etherscan and then recopied the fake address versus the one that was already in the clipboard. and then they sent 50,000 to the fake address. So I think these guys just sent $50,000 to themselves, and then they're like, "Hey, we got scammed by this zero value."
So it
transaction."
comes down to just checking that the address you're sending is the correct address. And historically, we've always sort of figured that since there's close to an infinite number of addresses, that just checking the first 4 digits and the last 4 digits in practice is good enough. But it's not anymore, because people with access to stacks of powerful GPUs can come up with new addresses that match the first 4 and the last 4 and don't worry about the beginning, and they're fooling us like that. So now you got to check more.
So the trick is, don't copy
Yeah.
addresses from your Etherscan.
Yeah, only from your own wallet, from your own address book. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And then just double check, make sure, things are legit, because I got pretty freaked out when I saw, a couple $1,000 all of a sudden leave my wallet. I'm like, what the heck? And then I go and look at it on the Pulse chain or on the chain, and it's like, yep, some money left your wallet. And then someone had showed me the scam tactic, and then I saw a couple days ago Jesse had posted this up here, so I thought it would be relevant to talk about it. It seems like
cool.
So, but here's also the deal too, is that I noticed that money leave my wallet for the very first time like last week. Apparently money's been leaving my wallet for like the last 4 months, and I just never noticed.
Yeah.
Because like I just never look at the Etherscan or the Pulse chain scan as my, I'm not copying addresses from there.
Richard posted about it like 3 months ago or something, but yeah, it definitely needs to come to people's attention. And so I'm glad you brought it up here, Brisology. Do you guys know another thing you can do to avoid being hacked?
No,
lock it up.
I don't think there is anything else you can do, Maddie.
Does
Nothing
it rhyme with chime pays
no
flee?
Hacker firewall.
That's right. Chive.
Yeah,
Chive pays me.
So with timepays.me, you can set up a second seed phrase, and then when you're watching money flying around that's yours, you can you can reject the request to withdraw and give control to the second seed phrase. Boom. Protected.
That will actually be really interesting.
I think that's
to see if they can actually send money out of your wallet in the time.
They could still spoof Etherscan, and you could still send to the wrong address, but you would have a week to figure it out.
Well, the classic tragedy, going back to the other thing, is, like you've been getting this address from somewhere and you're sick and tired of it, so you eventually get rid of it. Man, I'm going to put this in my MetaMask address book. Finally, I should have done this months ago. And then tragically, you go and find the address on Etherscan and put it in your MetaMask address. Then on, you're using what you believe is the right one, by doing the right thing. It's a bit like a magic trick. A lot of magic tricks, the trick is actually right at the beginning, and then they do all this other nonsense in it. And it seems like something magic happens at the end, but they actually did something right at the beginning when you weren't really paying attention. And this is how this is basically what that scam is relying on. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Maddie. Yeah, time pays me. There is a catch.
Oh, yeah.
That system, you have to, in order for it to work properly, well, in order to be able to use it, in order to have the psychological nous that is required to be able to use Time Pays Me, you have to master the number one skill in all of life, which is...
What's that?
Delayed gratification.
Whoa.
Delayed gratification.
Yeah, well, you have to be able to wait 7 days every time you withdraw, right? At the very least.
Marshmallows.
So if you become a master of that...
Yeah, the marshmallow test.
Or you could get scared into doing it, and then you could be protected, and then
you could just do it and worry about mastering it later. That's another way.
You could emergently experience the rewards of delayed gratification, and then you could be like, oh, now I'll look into HEX.
Yeah.
Right? For all the people who haven't.
Wow, delayed gratification really worked out. Imagine if I could get yield out of that somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. which is a large part of why we never built a yield system into this, of course.
Correct.
Because it doesn't and could not have, because of its other design goals, the same sort of game, super well balanced game theory that Hex has behind it. There's we really tried to come up with a system that was different but as good, and man, it's hard.
You did.
2 years couldn't do it.
Yeah.
The design that ended up in Hex in the end, the game theory is just genius level, super genius level. You really don't understand how genius it is until you try to improve on it.
That's right. That's right.
100%, right?
Yeah.
And you know, with Deci, you can still incorporate it. I'm hoping someday we'll have a 15.2 year perpetual that'll be able to plug into Time Pays Me. But for now, we just yeah. Well, and I gave the crypto professor a physical coin with a 30-year hex stake on it using Deci, and Time Pays Me. So that's kind of cool too.
Cool.
He'll figure it out someday.
Mm.
When's he coming on? When's he coming on the show, Maddie?
I'm not sure. He said he would do an interview, and we haven't set up a date yet because he's starting the semester. But I saw him on with Corey Costa today, and that was a good interview. Shout out to Corey.
Woohoo! Oh, we need to have an intervention with Corey because I saw him on a stream the other day. I think it was with RH Max, and he has no staked hex.
There's a few people like that.
With that,
there's a few people like that.
It's
who are core community
I'm
members.
Gonna have to talk to him because it's like it's kind of like the logic of what I was talking about earlier, like never all in, never all out. So it's like if you have some trepidation about being locked at the wrong time, it's like at least have some of your bag staked so you can be earning some yield. Because it just seems crazy to me to just hold hex and not stake any of it. That just seems
maybe he knows that he never kept a copy of his seed phrase, so he's essentially locked anyway. He's left it up to fate. I'm just trying. I'm clutching at straws here to try to figure out how someone could get themselves in that situation. It just seems really strange.
What, to not stake or to lose their
stake? At least stake like 10 hex.
Well,
for
I
like
think he's
there's a big. So here's the problem, right? Here's the problem: is we have all these people that have come through, and they're coming from a different perspective. They barely believe in HODL, and they don't believe in multi-cycle. And so you're hearing lots of people talk about how they're going to cash out in 24, 25, and they're going to make their millions, right? That's what I'm hearing, Future Us, right? And so they want to have access, and they just can't comprehend why I like 40% yield. They just have no or 40% reward.
Oh, I'm doing it. A decent sized portion of my current stack, I am just trading liquid, and it's hurting me, and I shouldn't be doing it. But so I get it.
Yeah, I was taking I was taking counterpoint to Toby, telling people they should stake because I'm just getting more and more yield, and all the data I have shows I'm going to get tons more, lots more. And so if I take the counterpoint, of course I want more people to stake. That's how we think. But it just means I get less.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. The less people to stake, the more the stakers that are stake are going to get. Yeah.
But either way, but those dynamics work either way, because if people do catch on, right, more than already are catching on, right, then will help push price up.
Yeah.
But I do.
It seems up to me that you wouldn't do it just to say I am a staker, just for the bragging right. Yeah. It's just.
Well, it's a lot of the guys.
I think it's an example of how. I think it's an example of how we, I've said it 100 times. We need to go back to basics, because it's like if there's people that have been around as long as somebody like Corey has, and they don't understand the power of TShares and the power of a staking ladder, it seems to me like that is something that needs to be revisited or discussed more frequently.
They don't believe in
that of that mindset. Well, I mean,
so what would you guys say to somebody who doesn't believe in staking?
To them,
what would you say?
Well, it's a funny thing because I didn't believe in it either until I did it.
Yeah,
I had to do it to understand. Oh, so that's how this feels, not how it academically works. But I had to experience it before I got it.
Mm.
It seems silly to me to lock stuff up for whatever, even a 40% per annum. It's like, oh yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And I aped it initially, but it wasn't until the lattice, because it's been 3 years now. The first 2 ladder stakes have ended, and the psychology that goes with that, and knowing absolutely that even though the price is down, I wouldn't have that hex now if it weren't staked. I just wouldn't.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I actually replied to one of Lamont's tweets recently and shared one of my, the things that I'm very proud to have shared with Richard. And Richard said, yeah, that's a great way to describe it, is that, it's a hedge to the downside and it amplifies your gains. It's like, if you just, it can be mathematically represented so simply because, if you're doing an average 40% APY, let's say, the price could literally go down approximately 20% a year forever, and your fiat value would remain the same. And then on the flip side, if you're getting 40% more tokens per year, then it just amplifies the pump. So, I mean, it seems to me so just basic to get that across to someone. Like, yeah, it's like maybe you don't want to stake everything you got because you're afraid that you're going to be locked up during the peak of the bull. Then that's why you do a staking ladder. You do stuff like maybe every 3 months, and then that way you have some stuff coming out, and then you can keep it liquid. You can keep it. You think, hey, man, the bulls, like the peak of the bulls around the corner, I'm not going to restake this right away. I'm going to hang on to it. But in the meantime, because if you're waiting 4 years, how about you stake for 3, right? And then if you want to hang on for that last year with it liquid because you think you're going to catch the top, then at least you've gotten some yield in that time that is likely going to be down.
I've heard of other hexagons staking up until what they perceive the next bull run will be.
Yep.
I don't know if that's a great strategy or not, but I heard of other people doing that.
Have a ladder so that something's coming out at every possible time. I think maybe the bull run might be. Yeah, got to be right once, don't I?
Well, and if you do it quarterly, you got a pretty good chance, right? Like, that one of those stakes is going to be ending pretty close to the time that the bull run is upon us.
If you have a reasonable amount of money in there so the transaction fees don't mess you up, I mean, even if you roll a stake, like do monthly stakes, you're getting like, what, 8% per annum or something or other out of that.
Yeah, you can easily get 10. You can get 10%. If you go out a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean,
with a
especially
ladder,
on Pulse Chain, with the fees being so cheap,
Yeah, well, that just makes it more accessible to people with smaller stacks,
Damn, Danny boy with the 10-year average.
Danny's the man.
Work.
The other thing I'd say is
about
people
6.5 years, I think, 7 years.
People think they can go back, in the Back to the Future, Maddie. That people think they can go backwards in time, and they're not going to be able to. And so, because we know you can't really do that right now, anyways. That's for the future. But what I preach this on about every week, right? Because I do a stream every week on it. You do not want to find yourself deciding in 2025 you want to stake. Now, of course, I want people to decide 25 they want to stake. But for the people who are listening, they're on the fence. I would rather you decide now and lock up your TShares early for a cheaper rate. And I've got some charts on that stuff that I prepared for tonight.
You definitely want to do your first stake before 21.99.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Because you're going to have some issues trying to do your first 21.
There's a bug in the code.
There won't even be any more Bitcoin by that time.
There's a bug in my coffin at that point.
Did you guys hear about that OnlyFans?
What's
that part of it?
What's it called? Only what?
The guy. I've never been there. What is that? No, apparently they invested $20 million into Ethereum.
What the
just
company?
20 million?
Recently?
Like dollars? Just 20 million. And so
like
$20 million doll hairs. But yeah, they put 20 million into Ethereum. But
Pussies.
here, yeah, but this is what makes them a pussy. I'll tell you the truth. The CEO, do you know how much he gave himself? As just
500
like
million.
a bonus?
Was it 800 million?
338 100 million or 338 million or
Yeah.
it's such a weird number.
Yeah, because they profited like the company profited like $1 billion or something crazy.
That's ridiculous. So good.
You simps need to stop. Okay, that is just what the CEO took in. That's not what they even paid all the girls. That's just what the CEO.
And
one
guys.
guy.
I checked that site out about a month ago when I was crook in bed, and the only thing I can I shouldn't have said that. Well, I didn't find anything there that was of any interest to me. Just put it that way. So they can get better. You can take from that whatever you want.
But I was just kind of blown away that the CEO got to pay himself $338 million just as a bonus.
Because I deserve it.
That is.
Look what I've done.
That website makes so much freaking money.
We should tell him about staking.
Easy come, easy go, though, right? Probably doesn't even have it already. Probably blew it away already.
I mean, but do you even need crypto and staking if you have $100 million?
Yeah.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah.
You do. Otherwise, you're going to lose 20% purchasing power every year.
Yeah.
To inflation.
Probably end up buying a brand new Lamborghini when you could have got a pre-owned one 6 months old for cheaper because the money comes too easy. You know? Didn't even have to wait.
No. That guy can spend $8.5 million a year every year for 40 years. That was insane.
Yeah. Can you find out what he's into? I might set up a shop.
He likes mustaches. That's what I heard.
He likes bald guys.
That's it.
All right.
Glenn had the right idea.
And then I heard the SEC is going to rule on the BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF later this week. So that's pretty cool. I guarantee you it's probably going to pass. We might see like a $30,000 Bitcoin by the end of the week. And if
are they going to rule, or is Gensler just going to give another opinion? It's kind of hard to know.
I heard it was going to be ruled.
Wow.
Later this week.
Epic.
So, but if Bitcoin gets up to 30,000, you can guarantee you Pulse Chain and Hex and all of our ecosystem is going to pump too, because it pumps with the rest of the Bitcoin and Ethereum liquidity bonding.
Two-part question. Aren't there others that are on the docket to be ruled on as well, other ETFs besides just BlackRock? And then the second part is, wasn't the ETF coming out the top of the 2017, 2018 bull? Like,
that,
like everyone
sell the news on that one.
There was going to be this ETF, and then
right.
So that's where
ETFs
I
are
don't
not
understand
good
exactly why that. Was my
people
general
get
take.
To buy crypto without actually buying
from
crypto.
that previous experience.
So, we've got a delay going on. I think, Toby. So I keep accidentally talking over you. Yeah, I mean, when people get to buy crypto that isn't actually crypto, and they're not allowed to buy it any other way, furthermore, on account of the whole, registered freaking investor or whatever it's called. So whatever it is. Yeah, of course the price is going to go down after the ETF's actually launched, but everybody thinks it's a great thing on the way to it, so the price pumps. So yeah, so the day the ETF comes out, I know what I'll be doing with my Bitcoin that I don't actually have any of. I'll be hitting that sell button, man. Yep.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, everybody thinks it's amazing, and I don't even think it's because of to be more serious. I don't think it's because everybody thinks it's amazing. It's just that it gets us on the news, gets crypto in front of people's eyes again. You know, 'cause people start talking about this big ETF and it's positive for yada yada yada. So all the retailers are, oh yeah, that crypto thing, I forgot about that. You know, better go buy some. I think that's what actually happens. That's the whole buy the rumor mechanism. It's just eyeballs, not really people knowing what they're getting into. Yeah.
I'm going to call it $50,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year. And wherever that pulls the rest of
crypto. You go, Bruce.
Yeah. If we get to $10 HEX, I'll back you up on that, because I know people have to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff before they can buy HEX. So in order to buy HEX, they have to pump the others, right? That's the way I see it.
100%.
If we get $10 HEX, I will personally pump the price of Bitcoin up to 50K.
I'll sell you HEX for $10 right now. You can actualize that reality.
Hey, that's
right.
I
got $10 HEX for
sale. I need volume. I need size.
And you know where you can stick that BBC then.
Buy and burn. Buy and burn, folks.
Oh, jeez.
We won't be relying on that, right? So,
yeah.
And other big crypto news, Elon Musk was approved for a money transmitter license for X.com. And they're gonna, and I guess it allows cryptos. So
what's he gonna transmit, do you think, Bruce?
Probably cum rocket.
Probably Dogecoin. Toby didn't like that comment.
Call me crazy, but I can imagine a token coming out called X. Just saying.
Oh yeah, of course. I don't know. He you know, Elon had spoken very favorably about Doge at one point. He had also talked about building a team of people, developers, to improve on it. And so maybe that's the idea for X. You know, who knows?
Maybe. Ethereum killer 11.4.
Yeah.
So Maddie, if you have time, if you want to do it now, you throw that screen up.
That'd be great. Yeah, here we go.
And we can hit on this real quick. And so yeah, I know because we even got people in the chat here who are talking about it. We do have some people that are not mindful and are not thinking of staking. So I totally get that. So you guys don't listen for a minute. So the people who are staking, right, or are thinking they're going to stake. So what is this? We've talked about this on this channel before. Two numbers up here, or two lines. It's really more than two, but the way it appears is two lines. The upper line here is what we call the max TShares, right? This line up here, this blue line.
Yeah.
And that's based on the circulating or estimated circulating supply. So how many TShares could have been made at any one time or could be made at any one time? And you can see that over time, based on TShare rate going up, that that number gets smaller and smaller, right? You know, goes on forever that way. And then in the bottom, what we're seeing is actual TShare count, and it does include actual TShare count as well as a forecast TShare count. And it does include both Ethereum and Pulse Chain, but they look like the same line because right now they're essentially the same, right? I mean, they're just a few thousands, maybe tens of thousands difference, right? And so what we have is this gap between what could possibly be there, could be created, and what actually exists, right? And everything before today is kind of shaded in blue. That would have been a great time to have gotten your TShares, right? If you were going to be staking, that would have been a great time to do it. And but can't go back in the past and do that unless you go buy one of the perpetuals, right?
Second best time is now.
Yeah, so now is the best time. And you don't want, if you are going to decide, so it's not financial advice, but if you are going to decide yourself to push the button and do staking, I wouldn't wait until the price goes up to do so. I would try to figure out how to do it sooner, because what you can see here is that this gap will continue to shorten. And the shorter or the closer those numbers get together, think of it as kind of like squeezing the price in the upwards direction. So whatever the price would have been, right, based on the other dynamics in the system, whether it goes going down or going up, it will actually push it to be a little bit higher, because those people who want the yield will be getting the HEX and getting the TShares. And
so when crypto as a whole becomes more popular and people start going, man, maybe I need to get some of these TShares, it's likely to push the TShare price up faster than it would have a couple of years ago. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, 100%. And not to mention the fact that they won't be able to, there just won't be enough HEX to go around. I always used to wonder when people would say, HEX is going to get scarce, TShares will be scarce. And so even it took me a long time to come around to this idea that this is what they're talking about, that you just can't make them. You just can't make them at some point. I mean, you'll be able to make them, but it's just the opportunity is like 10 times better now than it's going to be in 4 years from now.
It kind of implies that if we reach a level of popularity, or let's say euphoria at the top of the curve, similar in just in terms of the number of people involved, next time the whole bull cycle comes around, it seems to imply that things will pump, well, unimaginably literally harder than. I mean, it was a pretty epic run up last time. The idea that it could outperform that is something I find a lot of difficulty accepting, but it just seems to suggest that nevertheless. So that'll be interesting.
And I bet you a lot of people probably traded a lot of their HEX for Pulse Chain assets just because they thought, well, this is brand new shiny objects. They're going to perform better. HEX is in its second cycle, so let me trade out of my HEX into a first cycle coin. And so I think HEX could actually be a lot more scarce than we even realize, even now.
Yeah. I mean, it seems that way. They'll probably all just. I mean, euphoria is euphoria, right? So it's going to be so fascinating to see how it goes. I used to say back in the days of Quant Gang, I used to quite often say, that I'm going to be very interested to see how HEX performs in a bear market because it seemed to have unique qualities. And well, we've seen how that worked out. It turns out it's a token like any other. So yeah, I'm kind of a little reserved in saying that again. But I mean, the math is there. The scarcity, it is more scarce than it was last time, and there are more people interested. So when things turn bullish, you have to think. But it comes down to how much liquidity. Maybe the liquidity pool size also gets crazy bullish and slows us down as well. Wrong kind of popularity in terms of price pump. So you just don't know. Just don't know.
Well, with HEX,
different things.
With HEX being a liquidity provider, has a different trade-off than with other cryptos, of course, because you could make a certain amount of money if the pool is small, but then if the pool is bigger, you make less money. Whereas if you're staking, you earn a certain amount of money. So
yeah, and if you're in a run up and you're providing HEX liquidity, you end up with less HEX and more whatever else. So that is that's a dynamic that holds the liquidity down, which is good for price.
Yes.
In a bull run. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And right now, what's it cost for a TShare? Anybody have it off the top of their head?
It was a little over $100 before this latest bump. It was actually really cheap. It was like $100.
Yeah. So
$108.
Pulse Chain, 246, right? $246, right, at the current price. And
for
so,
1 day T-shirt.
Yeah, for a 1 day T-shirt, and you can obviously get them discounted, get more for above that if you go out 3 year, or excuse me, the 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. But here's the thing, and this is my point about deciding now. If you even have an inkling that you might be leaning in the direction of doing this, and you're not going to acquire HEX today, you're going to wait and see. You might have to pay whatever those X's are, right? Plus some to get there. Right now, I'm estimating if HEX was at goes to $2, right? Let's just say it did, for sake of argument. I know some people said, no, it'll be $1 or whatever. That might be a $100,000 T-shirt in 2025. Now cut it in, I don't know, call it 10,000. I don't know. You know, don't say it goes up to $2. You know, divide by 10, goes up to 20 cents. You know, people going to be, you know, want to miss out on the opportunity to, you know, instead of paying $100,000, you know, pay $20,000. You know, something like that. Why would you want to, you know, overpay if you can get in now? And so a lot of people, you know, will probably miss that boat, right? Hey, the other thing that's come up a lot recently, hit 2 points real quick. One is that I did go and figure out the base HEX payouts for the two. You know, we've got so many penalties, but people are requesting, hey, what's the forecast going to be for the HEX payouts? And so what I did is I took out the penalties and just looked at what the payout has been based on inflation. And not surprisingly, upwards and to the right, we do have a little bit of separation between the two chains. I think that was expected as well. But this is like same old, same old. Not super exciting for people, except the ones who like math, right? because us that like math, we're going to sit there and go start calculating, right? So this is what we've seen this year. And then, of course, this is our big forecast. And again, why getting the staking done back here in 24 is important is we're thinking that the share rate's going to continue to just creep up, right? Over time. And maybe even this is way too conservative, don't know. But so far it's been going pretty good. I mean, it's been pretty much on track to where we're headed. But yeah, you know, all these things combined kind of like create this situation where it just makes sense if you're going to decide to do it, decide earlier, not later.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got exponential forces multiplying other exponential forces. You know, it's so if it's going to go at all, it's going to really go. You know, or it's going to go to zero. But that's the thing. So,
yeah, I can't stress enough. I know we all look different in our ladders, but I can't stress enough, at least because it's my point of view. It's my opinion the way I go. I have constructed everything long term to give me a X amount of HEX per year, just as a simple as example. And if you buy cheap enough and you go out long enough, that can be a life changing kind of thing, because that's exactly what happened with the OGs, right?
Yes.
most of them, not this one.
Yeah.
Not yet. Not yet.
Well, we're still in process, you know.
Yeah. No, I mean it makes sense. It's always been the most sensible way to, I think, to look at HEX, because it's what it's designed to do. It's the whole purpose of it. If you're not leveraging what it was designed to do, then just go buy, you know, Doge or SHIB or whatever. Which is why it's perplexing to me that people would be interested in HEX without staking. Although I guess, you know, we do have a really strong community, so it's also got the meme coiny kind of fundamentals along with everything else.
Well,
on the community,
you know,
so.
I get irritated by that quite a bit. Like the guy in the chat, I forget the guy's name. There's nothing against him specifically, but I get irritated with the people telling me how they're going to trade and they're waiting for the low and they're going to dump on my head, right? But then I remember, oh, wait a minute, I need them to do that. Right.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, it's the thing that nobody wants to talk about. We need a whole bunch of people who think they're going to do that to infuse more value.
Yeah, I mean, if they're buying, then they believe the price is going to go up, and fulfilling that prophecy for us that have already bought, you know, and healthy market. So,
and God bless them if you know, because I'm not in that ring with them, right? And so if they're going to take on the Mike Tyson of you know, of swapping and trading, and they win, good for them. I'm good.
Absolutely.
Right? I'm happy.
And some will. I mean, there's no question that some of these traders are going to really win hard, you know, but typically not the majority.
Future us, how has your trading been the last few days?
It's been epic. It's been epic. You know, for I've been preserving my USDC, and
Yeah,
and I haven't been trapped by the sudden gain that I could have had in HEX if I had gone.
Trust me, pumps in crypto are way overrated. You're not missing
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
At least you have money,
Right?
all right? You
I
got
know,
the real
right?
money.
Exactly. Exactly.
You're funny.
I'm only losing 20% a year on my USDC. I've got stakes doing 40 and 60 in some cases, so I'm happy. Don't
Funny.
trade. If all you've got is money to trade with and you're just trading, man, I would hodl, but I can't recommend this trading thing. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but it's it's kind of fun as well. So
I want to buy the bottom, and I have been using the last of my dry powder to DCA, and I'm not happy that I am not all in yet. And so I hope that the price drops down. That's what I was trying to get at with this the title of this stream. Like, you could have the fear, uncertainty, and doubt combined with missing out if you don't buy the bottom, which really you can't buy the bottom. It's a myth, but there is a certain frustration with, like, for me, not buying it at every single price, and or not buying enough. But
I've bought
what can you do?
bought many bottoms in the last 2.5 years. Things that I thought were bottoms. So it's like,
my bottom hurts.
Yeah.
My bottom just hurts.
Still own a lot of bottoms.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing with like DCA. It's like, because Maddie, I think I heard you say once how your rule was basically you don't buy green candle days, like you buy red candles.
Yeah,
like that's your rule, which is great, right? I mean, that's kind of the idea, is that you want to go counterintuitive, take the emotion out of it. It makes sense if it's going down. That's a better time to buy than when it's going up, right? But the emotions will take over, and that FUMO becomes FOMO, and then it's just fear of missing out, and you're chasing. And then especially, I mean, that's the crux of why traders typically lose, right? Because it's like we're emotional animals, and it's like you have to be almost like an algorithm yourself, and to have that kind of discipline is almost non-existent for most people I know that have tried to trade. And it's like, you got to have a plan and stick with it. And then, for me, since I'm not selling anything, I'm not cashing anything out, I just try to have an informed DCA. So that's where, my charts and stuff come into play. So it's like, maybe, I caught shit for buying at 7 cents. Well, at the time that was a low, right? And it's like, and we bounced up from that, and I could have traded it and sold it when it bounced up to like 8.5. And then, but it's like, but what are the odds of me getting that right enough times with enough volume to offset the time that I get it wrong, right? And that's where it's like just DCAing all the way down has been effective for me thus far, and staking the majority of what I've got, so I'm earning yield, is working, and I'm happy with it.
I've been trapped by the classic, newbie casino thing. When you go in there and you win, and then you start. So you keep doing the same thing, and then you lose, and you lose, and you lose, and then at some point you go, man, it always goes the exact opposite way to what I'm going to go. So this time I'm going to go the opposite of the opposite.
The Costanza, you pulled the Costanza.
It's the way it works.
I made a tweet the other
day. Why you got to have a plan to stick to it,
I made a tweet the other day.
Break your plan, and then if you'd stuck to it, you would have been okay. But you give in and you break the plan, and then not gambling advice, and definitely not financial advice, people.
I made a tweet the other day where I posted the price of ink at $1.14, and I said, man, at 99 cents, I feel like aping into ink pretty hardcore, and then today I kind of just went the opposite direction up. I was like, son of a gun.
Yeah. But we only do it because we enjoy it, right? With spare pocket money that doesn't really matter.
Well, I mean, and it's like I was really happy with like the recent bottom that I bought a few days ago, and I bought some HEX, I bought some PHEX, I even added to my Pulse bag a bit. But the reality of it is I still have dry powder. So, it's like in times like that where I'm like, oh man, it's like, why didn't I just empty the dry powder, on that day? But I know, history would indicate that there's going to be other opportunities. And if my worst situation is that I didn't buy the exact bottom, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, DCA. I mean, there's never been a better time in the markets to DCA. It's been one of the longest, deepest bear markets we've ever seen, ever being, since Bitcoin came about. So, if you're DCAing now and you sometimes you're buying it like HEX, say for example, at 0.1 of a cent or something, and sometimes 0.3 of a cent. I mean, when it's $10 or $1 or whatever, if it was somewhere in that region, who cares? Even though the end result could be double what you ended up with if you bought it like 0.2 instead of 0.4. When it really comes down to it, when you move from 0.2 or whatever to 20 cents, it's like, well, does it really matter? $2 million versus $1 million versus $4 million, or whatever. And by DCAing, and just buying, the prices are low.
I got a question for everybody, and I want Maddie to be the last one to answer. I made an analogy like last week about smart contracts kind of being like a vending machine, where it's like you got the predetermined, you got buttons that do predetermined things.
Plagiarism. What's going on here? Did you genuinely come up with this on your own, or did you read it somewhere?
I honestly, it was I don't know if I subconsciously read it somewhere, but I legitimately kind of came up with it out of the ether.
Cool.
And because Lamont Black was talking about smart contracts, and I was like, it's kind of like a vending machine where the buttons do a predetermined thing, and you put in your little coin and you push the button and a thing is supposed to happen. And you're really not dealing with anybody else unless the contract code spits out the wrong soda. And that would be admin keys, I guess. I would almost consider vending machines to have admin keys, because someone could put a Dr. Pepper in the Sprite slot and you get a different outcome than what was intended. But for the most part, I thought it was a pretty good analogy of smart contracts kind of being like vending machines. But with that also said, after Lamont Black said, hey, that's a great analogy, and he said Nick Salbos was the first one to come up with that, I was like, really? So I just kind of Googled smart contracts vending machine, and yeah, he totally came up with it a long time ago, like in 2016. But I thought it was a pretty good analogy, and I don't know. Well, what do you guys think? Maddie, do you have an opinion?
Eddie's got to go last, remember?
Yeah, that's right.
Futrust has an opinion.
Well, it's amazing because there was a court case recently regarding Tornado Cash, where a judge, and now I guess I know where the judge got the idea from. It was Briz. Ruled that that the Tornado Cash contracts, if I understand properly, were to be seen from a legal point of view as a vending machine, and therefore somebody created that vending machine and placed it in a certain place and were therefore responsible for its existence, and yada yada, and so they were held accountable. So so that really got me thinking, because when I came across this, I was like, and this is like what, last week or the week before, and I was like, you know what, that really is a really interesting analogy, just like you, Briz. And I was like, because it kind of is like that, the code's there and it does what it does, and it's yada yada. But then I was like conflicted, because I was like, wait a minute, they're using that against us. So I had to think about it more, and so it is a good analogy in terms of, I think, understanding what a smart contract does, how it works, and having faith that it will continue to work that way, because it is a code and the code isn't going to change if there's no admin keys. But at the same time, you can have an infinite number of these vending machines that, they can be copied just like software. So they're not, when you copy a computer program from in the old days from one floppy disk to another, you didn't have to go through all the work of writing the code again. You know, you can just make an easy copy. So there's something clearly different about them in that sense. And then you get into the whole, you know, freedom to transact, and transacting as communicating. And I was forced down that line of thinking because in order to defend, if I was the Tornado Cash people, having just been arrested and now got to defend myself, I'm going to have to come up with strong arguments to do with freedom of speech, freedom of transaction. Anyone should be able to publish anything. Software is speech, code is speech, you know, da-da-da-da-da.
Freedom of assembly.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things where, yeah, it's a really good analogy, but unfortunately it's already being used against us. So it's just like, dang, you know. So that's why I cut in at the beginning. I was like, come on, man, you didn't come up with this on your own or whatever. And the other guy, because that was quite topical for people that have read that thing. So
No, I hadn't even. I haven't read anything from that trial.
Yeah. So doesn't it suck though? You come up with an analogy that really seems to make sense. And I was like real empathizing with the judge. I'm like, man, that's a really interesting point.
Well, the one
is like a vending machine, you know, and I'm like, wait a minute, what?
The one term I really do want to take credit for is Schrodinger's scam.
Oh yeah.
Everything is and isn't a scam until
totally
it's proven to be a scam or not a scam.
I heard that on the
It's
stream.
just basically like rug pulls.
I love that. I love
rug
that.
pulls are the Schrodinger scam because it's like it's not a scam, it's not a scam. Rug pull, that's a scam.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
you don't know until it's. Is the radioactive sensor thing going to pop the vial that causes the rug pull or not? We don't know until we open the box, right?
Exactly.
Love it.
Maddie, what do you think? Because I thought you had what's it called when you have a different opinion? But yeah, a different opinion.
I'm right.
Contrarian opinion.
It's not. It's a smart contract is not a vending machine. Legally speaking, a vending machine has certain like laws around it and expectations and like court history. So if you want to like let the government take down crypto and make smart contracts illegal, then you will perpetuate the idea that a smart contract is like a vending machine. But there's lots of things that are that you could say is like a vending machine, and it's not a vending machine. And so just because there's a little bit of overlap doesn't mean that we need to go down that legal road to
if you publish a book, right?
So
if an author publishes a book and someone reads the book and says, I did the thing because I read it in the book and I thought it was a good idea, is the publisher responsible? Well, we have precedent to say no, because publishing is just speech and this freedom of thing, and it was just an idea, and it was the person who decided to take the action that is responsible.
A book is not an instruction. It's not a command.
No, right, but there's overlap because is it the person who created the vending machine that was responsible for the Dr. Pepper coming out instead of the Sprite, or was it the person putting the coin in and pressing the button? You know,
I think Ross Ulbricht.
They were the one who took the action, right? Ross, yeah.
It's
well, to Maddie's point, it's
there's
an expectation when in a vending machine that it's like if I'm trying to buy a condom and it gives me a tampon, is it the vending machine or am I in the wrong bathroom?
So yeah, look, it's
what did the button say though? What did the button say?
Well, think of it this way.
Right.
I can run a smart contract on my own by myself, and I can publish based on that smart contract, and then other people can recognize what I've published. That doesn't have anything to do with the vending machine. I can't run a vending machine myself. A vending machine is a business transaction between different parties, and in a smart contract, you can run it yourself, and it's free speech, not some like physical thing that you're you have a warranty and a liability and all this other stuff. It's outside of that system.
I
that a
thought
smart
a
contract is.
vending machine it kind of is like you run it yourself, because a vending machine isn't spitting out sodas without you initiating it.
That's a
and running it.
transaction. That's a transaction between two different parties, people who stocked it and people who come later. But if somebody reads, or
I
if
can see
somebody
that.
observes a picture of a pony, right, that's like drawn on the side of a building, that's different, right? We would call that observation. We would call that free speech. We would categorize it differently than like a transaction, where you're
I can
buying
see
a
that.
physical product.
A
All I
vending
can say
machine is that you're paying another person to use the machine versus like the HEX smart contract. You're not paying anybody to use it. You're actually just
Exactly.
locking up and then getting it all back. You're only paying the miners, if anything.
In a vending machine, like the soda can drops out and you take it, versus in crypto, the coins stay on the blockchain and you just have a different keychain.
You just publish where they're gone. And also the HEX vending machine exists everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, whereas the other, as to whether you engage with it or not on the in the ethers on the internet webs, right? Whereas the vending machine is, down at the 7-Eleven or whatever, just around the corner in the dark alley, and that's where you got to go if you want to use it. So it's very different in that sense as well. The reason this is important is because that judge is trying to say that you made the contract, therefore you're responsible for everything that ever happens to anybody that engages with that contract. And that's not a world I want to live in. Imagine
that's
if
limiting freedom of speech, and it's
Yeah.
limiting innovation in the crypto space.
Yeah. So like that, there's all kinds of, but to me, I mean, like, okay, so a person writes a book, are they now responsible for the actions of everyone who reads it? We have precedent for that. And that's why that's why we favor the idea that publishing data on a public database is publishing data on a public database. Who knew?
Yes.
Go figure. Versus creating vending machines, So, so I like the analogy in that it helps people understand what a smart contract is. It's a thing designed to do a thing. You give it certain input, you can expect certain output based on the way the code is, and it's a good analogy in that sense. But it's unfortunately untimely that you bring it up, because it just happens to coincide with a judge trying to leverage that against all of crypto and what we all stand for. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
Because they have so much trouble defining the rest of the points of the case as something that's illegal, because
they're like, the whole thing was like they were told that they had to shut it down. Tornado Cash had to be shut down because it was being used, it was sanctioned, right? It was being used to launder money or something. So you got to shut it down. And they're like, we can't shut it down. It's a smart contract on a freaking blockchain. It can't be shut down. And they're like, no, you made it. You're responsible for it. So if you won't shut it down, you're under arrest. That's what happened. And the argument, and the reason they were able to be arrested in a different jurisdiction, incidentally, but whatever, by different people under different charges, but it's kind of complex. But was because of this idea that, they're responsible because, look, a judge said it's just like a vending machine. You made the vending machine. You put the vending machine there. Therefore you're responsible. We told you to take it away. You didn't. So it's that argument. It's just a shame that I had to sort of railroad your otherwise very good analogy, because
I just thought of it. I put it in the chat. Reflection coins are like a vending machines.
Reflection. Oh yeah.
Well, you're paying into. I don't know.
The mechanism of the blockchain that executes the code is like a vending machine, but who's responsible for that code and for the actions taken with that code? That's what the argument. That's what the court battles are going to be over: is who's actually responsible for it. And can you be, if you were having a bad hair day or a good hair day, and you launch some code on some immutable contract, a blockchain, and the code can't be changed, and then you decided actually maybe that wasn't a great idea, for whatever reason, you can't reverse it. So, we recognize in law that when people make mistakes or do things that they couldn't see the government does it all the time, don't they? Systemic problem. It was a systemic issue. No one's actually accountable. It was just so complex that no one could have seen it coming. And so we
Printed too much money and the price of everything went up.
Yeah, systemic problem. It's just the wrong people were in charge.
Unpredictable.
And they all, they just stumbled and fell, and it just we're sorry, So will it happen again? Yeah, probably, but it's a systemic. The point being that we understand that we're humans, and humans do things that they don't necessarily understand what the eventual outcomes would be. Unforeseen circumstances and all the rest of that. And it's really, really important that the legal system acknowledges that, obviously, and takes it into account. But if you can say that a smart contract is exactly like a vending machine, and therefore all laws that apply to vending machines apply to smart contracts, then well, that's a problem. That's a really big problem. Because I can't put a vending machine down the thing that if you put a quarter in this thing and press this button, this axe will come down and take your head off. Haha. It's your problem if you decide to put the coin in, right? That's not going to fly. You can make the argument that no, they knew. It was very, very clear. They knew that we had pictures, we had a movie of it all and everything, and they knew that if they put the quarter in, they were going to lose their head. So it's their fault.
It was called a sacrifice.
There's laws already, because I guess people tried to make a vending machine like that once or something, so they had to make laws about how vending machines will be regulated. So smart contracts, unfortunately, despite that analogy being functionally good, it's a really bad idea. We don't want to be regulated.
At least I didn't say smart contracts are like a slot machine.
Yeah,
give me that one, right?
Man, I could have argued that one even more passionately. I will give you that.
Probably.
I probably would have been all up in your face over there. What? Are you crazy?
I mean, HEX is like a time machine if you use it right.
We do have provably random numbers on blockchain, so there is that.
Hey, I tell you a number I don't like, and that is the fact that we've got, 100 and some people watching and only have like 60 likes. So smash the like.
How rude.
Or get the out of here.
Maybe people just don't like our content. Maybe we're having too good of a time.
Do you not like us? Give us a like.
Shout out to all of those watching on. Shout out to all those watching on Apple TV and that, where it's really difficult.
Danny boy in the comments. Hit that like button, or you have to get out. All right.
The like is at 106, Toby. You need to refresh your.
Yeah, I gotta look.
Yeah,
I hadn't looked.
And there's 110 people watching. You 4 people need to get out now.
Yeah, we got 2 people watching that haven't liked. What's going on?
Yeah,
they're Apple TV users. I use my Apple TV all the time for watching streams and that, and to navigate that damn thing to even get to the like button. I do it because I care, but man, it ain't easy sometimes. It's a hassle. It really is.
Yeah, come on, Apple.
Yeah, we want a thumbs up button right there on the remote control. None of the silly.
Can anyone tell me whatever happened to that Facebook coin, Libra?
Yeah.
What happened to that, huh?
It got canceled.
They kept changing
10,000X, baby.
They kept changing the name of it, and then they shut it down.
Yeah, no,
I remember hearing stories of them saying like, we got multiple teams that have no contact with each other. Like,
so
developing.
there was actually
they literally, but not, I don't know, but maybe literally, but they basically put a legal gun to Zuckerberg's head and said, hell no. And so he pulled the plug. That's basically what.
And another thing that they did is the Financial Services Committee sent a letter to all of the corporations that were going to be in the Libra Association. And this was published on Twitter, so I actually had a copy of it at one point. And basically what it said is, we're revoking your banking services if you don't drop out of the Libra Association. And so this is a critical moment, I felt like, in me understanding how the world works, because I could tell that all of the corporations that were under the thumb of the US government dropped out immediately of Libra, and the ones that stayed were the powerful tech companies that were not already compromised. And so you saw like like PayPal type companies, like they dropped out and other ones didn't. And so that was really fascinating.
Of course, the irony of the whole thing is that we wanted to make it a stable coin, which is why you needed partnerships with all those big banking partners and all that kind of thing. And if you just said, "Oh, it's just another coin," they probably wouldn't have given a damn. But then it wouldn't have been a stable. So
he also failed at VR.
True. Well, I still have my Quest 2. I still play table tennis against the bot quite frequently.
Okay,
it's good exercise. Wow. Yeah.
Hey, we've got another member of the gang here.
What?
ChrispyMan?
Oh, yeah.
Who's our new guest?
Oh, there she is.
I wanted to come up and see you for some reason.
I got my OG VR.
Oh, look at that.
I bought this in 2016. Like
that is a very first one.
This thing is awesome, too.
You need to put that on a dust-proof, gas-proof, lid-shielded glass cage, man.
Yeah,
that's going to be worth a lot of money today. Like all the other old tech grows in value, right? The weight.
I kind of want to get in. I haven't played my VR in a long time. I want to get into a new VR game.
Oh man,
the VR
I'm playing VR right now.
Is really fun.
You guys,
VR. We should make a token for it. VR token, yay! Oh, I think that's been done.
Well, I think one of the best things is the painting programs. The painting programs are really cool. Like, you haven't really experienced art until you've painted in 3 dimensions.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It's just kind of funky.
Nice. So, you guys got any other hot crypto topics for the week?
I think I kind of I ran through all my topics.
Yeah, my screen share is not working. I was going to try to show a chart, but it's like, we've got some pretty good price action lately, and it looks like we've pretty much on EHEX and HEX on Pulse Chain have both played out the measured move to the upside almost to the tick. So we're getting a little bit of resistance just around the 21 EMA on both. So if people want to pull up those charts and look at them, then put in your 21 EMA or look at my latest tweet, and you should see kind of where we're at. Continuation, we could be up to about 0057 if we would be the next spot of resistance if we can break the 21 EMA on EHEX. On HEX on Ethereum, the next move up, which we actually wicked above the measured move, but the top side of that formation would put us about 1.3 cents. So hopefully we'll get some continuation and things will keep on trucking. And the next time, hopefully I can figure out a way to share my screen.
Toby?
Yes.
The trend is your friend. We're still in the bear market on account of me being in denial.
Until the end.
And therefore, EHEX 0.00215 by September 27th.
00215 on EHEX?
By September 27th.
That's 50% down from here?
I guess.
Yeah, sounds about right.
September.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
By the dip.
So everybody sell right now, not financial advice. And fill my bags.
Now the next support I see for EHEX, if we were to just have a giant dump out of this, would be actually, curiously enough, right to the post big payday dump, which was 0.0022.
Yeah.
Nice.
Let's hope it goes up, but we don't know, right?
I'm not looking to sell anytime soon, so I'm happy to continue to buy dips. And I'm staked and chilling and yield.
And then for some reason, for me to like believe when it goes down, and then for me to buy, and then it can go back up forever.
Right? Yeah, that's the dream.
Yeah. So you all can. I didn't give any financial advice, but if you take into the account that I'm almost entirely always wrong about the chart, take from that whatever you will. Yeah.
But At least staking is a little bit more predictable when it comes to measuring your wealth in HEX.
Indeed. Mm. Nope, no more
Cool.
news. Can't think of anything.
Well,
Stake it till you make it.
Base sucks.
yeah, base sucks. Get TShares now versus later.
TShares are so cheap right now. They're basically the cheapest they're probably ever gonna be again at this
In HEX
particular
terms.
moment.
In HEX terms,
Pretty
absolutely.
In terms of HEX
That is true.
and USD, but
Pretty sure they've been cheaper in HEX terms. Pretty sure.
Oh yeah.
It used to be 10,000 HEX per T-share. Now it's
What are HSIs and perpetuals? What kind of a discount are we seeing there? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
Nope. I have no idea.
I have not looked.
It's
at
really
those in a
hard to
while.
tell because you can only really tell when the auctions close, and there's only a couple or three of those at the top usually of the list, and there's all the other ones that are still running. So the ones that are running make it look like everything's cheap, but it's not over till it's over with an auction, right? So I don't know.
So where can everybody find you guys at?
I'm on Twitter as Brisology.
I'm hanging out on my couch most of the time lately, icing my crippled spine. But when I'm
Get stem cells.
capable, I am tweeting on X, or I guess I'm posting. It's not tweets anymore. So at Tobiwan _Hexobi. If you leave out the underscore, that's my backup account. So it's still me. But yeah,
Right.
check it out. I'm starting to put my charts back up again. I was doing daily for a long time. It took a little break. But the charts are looking pretty juicy, so I'm going to try to do this more frequently. But yeah. And then, of course, here on Tuesday nights with you guys. So
Yeah.
Every Tuesday night,
ChrispyMan.
Hexfire.io. Come check it out. Come check out the site. And I'm also Hexfire.io on both YouTube and the old X. The old X.
And he's got a Patreon in the link below.
I do. I've been working on data models. I guess that's a little bit of news. Soon. I'll have 2 more weeks. I'll have a button.
Awesome.
To be able to switch between Pulse and Ethereum on the Hexfire stuff.
Right on.
Getting there.
sweet.
I am an AI bot avatar running on the system that your friend Somi forked and made reference to. And so you can find me in the ethers. Try hard enough. Sign a few disclaimers, and you'll be right in there with me. We can hang.
You can find me in the ether.
Yeah.
Right on. And yeah, so hit the like and subscribe button. Check out the links in the description below. You can be one of the 300 people who have already ordered a Trezor using the link there. And that helps the channel. So thanks everybody for tuning in. And until next time, stake wisely, buy the dip, and peace out.
Later.
See ya.
I was muted.